The portal is closed, but Georgia Tech finally has some wide receivers.
You are Locked On Georgia Tech, your daily podcast on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Georgia Tech. I am one of your hosts, Caleb Johnson. I wasn't smart enough to get into Georgia Tech, but I'm plenty smart enough to talk Georgia Tech sports. Taking this daily journey with me, covering the Yellow Jackets, is my co-host, Jarvis Davis, who's been covering Atlanta sports for the last 15 years. We want to start off by saying thank you for making Locked On Georgia Tech your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. We're free and available wherever you download your podcasts, and wherever you go to download them, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The college football playoff is here, and FanDuel is the best place to get on the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boost every game day. On the show, we're going to get into which Tech transfer portal name is coming back, who will be coaching wide receivers for the Yellow Jackets in 2026. But first, Jarvis, it is something we have discussed in the past because it seemed to be a lot of concern. Obviously, the Yellow Jackets get a big name like Justice Haynes to come in, and okay, we know this team is going to be able to run the football, but who is going to throw the football? Still unsure. Who's going to catch the football? A bigger uncertainty for this team. But finally, some names have come out there to make a commitment to Georgia Tech for 2026. Do you feel like the wide receiver room is coming together and finally set to some extent?
You know what? I was actually watching some highlights of Mr. Isaiah Fuhrmann. You know, big transfer from Elon, 6'4", 200 pounds, almost average 20 yards a catch.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, he could be one. Matter of fact, he could be wide receiver one. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and mark it down right now. Zay Fuhrmann. He likes to be called Zay. I understand that. Isaiah. Zay, I get it. Understand. Zay Fuhrmann likes to be, you know, he can be the wide receiver one day one, regardless who's throwing the football, because when you look at the type of player that he is and what he brings to the table, he's one of those, I don't say 50-50 ball guys. He's a 60-40 ball guy or a 65-35 ball guy, because when he goes up to go get it, he normally come down with it. All you gotta do is put it in the vicinity of him, and he's just a big guy. So I think that when you add a guy like that, you kind of understand, okay, you at least got potentially your wide receiver one right there. So I wouldn't say that is the wide receiver room is ready to roll or the wide receiver room is good to go. But I will say you at least got an idea of what you're working with. You know, if I'm George Godsey, I'm saying, okay, I can work with that. And then, you know, we can kind of coach up the guys that we already have, other guys we have on the roster, and see what we can get going on. But yeah, I wouldn't say that the wide receiver room is a go. You know, but I can probably get some sleep now that you got a guy like Isaiah Fuhrmann in the fold.
I was just going to say this, Jarvis, like, I'm just glad there's actual bodies now. Like,
Right?
I mean, I knew Brent Key and George Godsey weren't going to go into the season with the receivers that were on this team. Like, that would just be preposterous.
Right.
And, you know, we've talked with our listeners before, but in case you hadn't caught previous episodes and you definitely want to go back and catch up, just because the transfer portal closed last Friday does not mean that players can't sign. However, the thing that we will continue to emphasize is that the best guys are gone. And
they're enrolling in school right now.
Yeah. The guys who don't have a home right now are in a very uncertain position where you could get snatched up by someone and get a new home. You could potentially return to the place that you were at. And we'll talk about someone later in the show who made that decision for Georgia Tech. Or you could find yourself in that awkward position of you don't have anywhere to go and your career is very much in jeopardy. And so I think for Georgia Tech, I had faith in Brent Key to be able to find someone, but you're playing that true scouting game right now where you're putting on the tape of lower level competition and trying to find those guys that really stick out to you. Now, granted, 6'4", 200 pounds, guy who caught 9 touchdowns, nearly 1,000 yards receiving last year. That's stand out.
Yeah.
And I think for the teams that were interested in Zay Fuhrmann, this is a great get for Georgia Tech. Truly, this is a truly great get for them because this is the one where I think the scouting level shows because clearly is talent, but on a lower level wants to prove it at the next step. As you mentioned, I think comes in and immediately is a starter on this team, if not wide receiver number 1. Just because of the type of receiver that Jordan Allen is and how he kind of fits into this offense. Well, into the offense we think we're going to see, because you still don't have a clear picture of what George Godsey likes to run as an offense, because we haven't seen anything yet. But for all of that, you see the thought process behind a type that they're trying to bring in. And Jarvis, I think you also see that in another guy that they brought in, but someone who is very raw, very unproven, Cal wide receiver Javen Plummer. He's someone also big frame, big size, 6'3", 215, a wide receiver. Just the thing that fans are going to see that is going to draw a lot of attention is, okay, he only caught 2 passes for Cal last season. So, 2 passes, 86 yards. So he knows how to run with the football.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it like this, man. For whatever reason, he wasn't productive at Cal, right? And I feel like when you bring a guy like this in, you kind of have to. This is one of those guys where you look at it and you say, yeah, we need bodies. We just need bodies. We need bodies. And if he comes in shape, ready to roll in the spring, and he's getting after it, he's picking up on the offense, and he ends up being a guy that can be part of your rotation, that's a plus. Now, obviously, I'm talking about him a little bit different than I was talking about Mr. Fuhrmann.
Yeah.
Because Mr. Fuhrmann has production. Mr. Fuhrmann has enough film to put together highlights. He's
not doing practice.
Oh no, sir. Hey man, come in, work hard. Play some special teams potentially. Hey man, you probably might be able to get a few snaps on offense. And like I said, if he's able to do that, that'd be a plus. So yeah, this is one of those deals where Key was out there saying, hey, come on down here and visit. And, you see what our wide receiver room looks like. I don't have to tell you that. And you could potentially get a chance to earn some playing time. And with no guarantees.
I think this thing that stands out for me is the frame. Like, clearly that is an emphasis of bringing a guy like Javen Plummer in.
Sure.
I see budget-friendly Isaiah Canyon out of a pick like this. Like, it's okay, we can't have the real brand because, unfortunately, Canyon decided to go get paid and go play for another school in the state. Yeah. And so since you need to feel that same style of player, like that throw them up, bust them up, that I think of, when in your elementary school days, that Isaiah was so good at, that we were both looking so much forward to in 2026 of like, hey, at least there's some part of this offense you don't have to worry about. Okay, never mind. But I think with Plummer, you see it in the frame that you're like, okay, this has got to be a situation where Brent Key and George Godsey feel like we can coach that up. You didn't get opportunity at Cal, which is clearly why you went in the transfer portal. and you want an opportunity somewhere else. And so even though you don't have that film and you don't have that production, maybe we can get that out of you once we get you in the doors in Atlanta. And I don't know that it's going to work out to the same extent, but I see the thought process there of trying to get in a guy like Javen Plummer who's unproven, and then with Zay Fuhrmann, like it's obvious. The production speaks for itself. You just want to see it at the Power 4 level instead of what he was doing before at Elon.
Yeah, and I think you're onto something because coaches have egos, man.
Yeah.
These guys think they can doggone get the butter from the duck, like make lemonade out of lemons, or lemonade out of whatever, whatever analogy you can throw in there that I'm blanking on right now. But I think that this is going to be interesting. We're going to find out really quickly. It's not going to take that much time at all. Like I said, spring practice about to get ready to start, spring game, even though that's a glorified practice, you're still going to be able to see if this dude can play. And I think that once he comes in, like I said, if he's able to pick up on this offense, comes in ready to roll in the spring, man, look at the depth chart. Look at it. Look at it, man. I know we're gonna talk about it a little bit later on as far as a guy coming back and some guys sitting in that portal, looking around, looking a little quiet,
right?
A little quiet. So yeah, it can be one of those instances where you have an opportunity. It's up to you whether you're gonna be able to take advantage or not. And I think that them bringing a guy like Plummer in, like I said, with no stats really, and just been a guy that just hasn't played. But like I said, you got the size, the measurables are NFL caliber. Just from 6'3", 215. That's if I'm an NFL scout, shoot, that's what I want. So yeah, I think this is one of those deals where they're probably betting on. I can coach that up.
All right, now we know a couple of wide receivers who are joining this Georgia Tech program. Who's going to be coaching them? The college football playoff is here. Look, guys, it's wrapping up tonight with Miami and Indiana. FanDuel is giving all customers even more ways to get on the action every single game day of the playoffs, because right now, every college football playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the app. So with tonight's matchup, I've been warning you about this for days leading up to tonight's game. If you're feeling confident about Miami being the underdog at home, pulling it out with Carson Beck, then you go to FanDuel, you use the profit boost in order to help you out in that way. If you're feeling confident in Fernando Mendoza and Indiana, then you go for the team that you think is better in this one. Then you apply the profit boost, you go for even bigger wins, and when you win, FanDuel pays out instantly, which is perfect for playoff football. FanDuel is the best place to get on the action all playoff long, so visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff boosts every game day. We want to thank you guys for making Locked On Georgia Tech your first listen of the day. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Georgia Tech with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedongeorgiatech.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. Jarvis, as I mentioned earlier, we learned a couple of names that were going to join this program, Zay Fuhrmann and Javen Plummer. I don't think it's necessarily a coincidence that those names join Georgia Tech as we learn, hey, a new wide receiver coach is coming to the program. Jafar Williams out of Vanderbilt. What are your expectations of this new piece to the offense?
Yeah, when you look at what Vanderbilt was able to accomplish with Diego Pavia being the quarterback, and they they put up some points, and from being an assistant wide receiver coach at Vandy, and having experience coaching in the ACC as well at Virginia Tech, you just look at the experience. Obviously, he brings a lot of it to the table, and apparently, when Mr. Fuhrmann was working out, he was out there kind of like doing his thing. Reportedly, being out there with him and kind of talking with those guys, and when you think about that aspect of it, it gives me hope, and it gives me, I'm pleased because like guys who can immediately come in and talk to guys and be able to speak that language for potential players to come in and want to be able to contribute. And those guys eventually say, yep, I'm all in, coach. And that it says a lot about him, what he's been able to accomplish, him being able to let those guys know, hey, if you come here, I'm going to help you get better. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I think this is one where, honestly, Jarvis, the thing that stands out to me is I don't think there's an immediate connection with Brent Key and George Godsey. And so it appears that Jafar Williams is getting here on merit off of what he, along with Vandy's wide receivers coach, Alex Bailey, were able to do. Because, yes, Diego Pavia got a lot of attention and was in the Heisman conversation, and, were able to make a really impressive run that caught a lot of people's attention. He had to throw the ball to someone, and those guys had to actually come up with those catches in order for Vandy to be as competitive this season as they had been. And I think it's really cool when, judging from the fact of Jarvis, the names that we have gone through, who are going to be catching passes for Georgia Tech in 2026. And, you've got the guys that you recruited out of high school, and you've got the guys who are returning on this program who haven't caught a pass in college yet. Then you look at what Jafar Williams was able to do over at Vandy, and helping a guy like Richie Hoskins, who was a walk-on, who came in and joined the program and turned into a really impressive, I think he had like 131 yards and like 2 touchdowns was kind of his standout moment, and was a part of the whole like walk-on player of the week sort of thing. So like there have been moments where he has coached some pretty solid receivers that stepped up for Vandy, but knowing he can coach up the guys who are lower on the depth chart, and you need those guys to produce, and Georgia Tech's going to need those guys to produce in 2026. And so for all of that, you go, okay, this still to some extent unproven, but once again, you see the philosophy. And I think the big thing for me, Jarvis, is maybe those guys that we mentioned earlier aren't the last wide receivers to walk in through the door, because one thing that's going to give you more comfort in joining a program is you actually know who your position coach will be.
Yeah, and that's the thing about not only being to coach these guys up, man, recruiting is so important.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Trent McKnight was doing a pretty good job at that.
He was one of their best recruiters, according to according to those recruiting websites, he was one of the best that Tech had for sure. So you gotta be able to. That's why I say I thought it was really cool to see that Jafar was having having conversations with Fuhrmann when he was on his visit last week on the flat. So I think that is a very good sign when you got guys coming in here, you hiring guys based off of merit, and he's coming in day one having an effect. Like, hey, I'm here. I know you were supposed to go to Washington or UW, or you've been there, or you was getting ready to go there, but hey, man, this is where you need to be. You can improve on those numbers that you had at Elon. So I think that's the big thing for Jafar, to be able to come in and immediately have an impact, and be able to have those conversations with guys and influence those guys to come on and sign up.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how a guy like Jafar Williams influences and kind of meshes with the offense that George Godsey is going to be putting together, because as I mentioned earlier, this is one that we haven't seen before, because as much as you can say, oh, Godsey is going to take things that he learned with the Ravens, it's a completely different game in college. And so, not having that experience in 15 years is going to be interesting. And I'm really curious to see who he's going to pull from, because given the guys that he has worked around, Todd Munkins and the likes, a lot of different things that he'll be able to pull from. And, getting a couple of big body receivers clearly seems to be possession guys, I would have to imagine. It seems to be a big part of this philosophy that George Godsey's got heading into 2026. All right. Going from coach getting hired, well, who is a transfer portal name for Georgia Tech who is coming back to the Flats? Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives you real peace of mind knowing there's an expert handling it all. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Well, Jarvis, this certainly happens from time to time. As we mentioned earlier in the show, guys enter the transfer portal looking for better opportunities. Sometimes they take a look around and decide, maybe I should come on back home. And that was the case for Melvin Jordan IV this week, as a linebacker who was impactful, certainly more at the beginning of the season, decides to see if the grass is greener, and the grass wasn't greener, and he ends up back at Georgia Tech. What do you kind of make of Jordan coming back, and do you think he's going to be the only Georgia Tech Yellow Jacket who enters the transfer portal and ends up back?
I think this is one of the positions that was the most unproductive.
Can we just say it sucked? I don't know. Is that
right? I mean, yeah. Sorry. That's fine, Caleb. That's fine. Yeah,
hey, look, okay. I was about to say, I will say
just
that.
Make sure your DMs are open, because people get a little sensitive. You know what I'm saying?
I know. In the YouTube comments, I'm sure you'll yell at me. You'll tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, but that's fine.
Well, yes, the linebacker core had its fair share of issues, especially towards the end of the season. Yeah. So a guy like Jordan coming back, this is a depth piece. If I'm Jason Seymour, or the linebacker coach that doesn't exist right now, because they decided to move on from Darius Eubanks, might have a little something for you as far as who that guy might be on tomorrow's episode. Make sure you check that out. But I think that Jordan coming back, like, he came to a realization. This happens, man. This happens a lot more than people think. And for him to come back, I think it says a lot about having awareness, some self-awareness. Like, you know what? I can wait around and probably go to a FCS school, but I can probably come back and still be able to play. And that's what I want to do in college. I like my teammates potentially, and might be another opportunity for me to, finish what I started essentially. Because moving and all that stuff, man, that can be a hassle. And if you're not hopping in that portal and getting $500,000 offers and $1 million offers, which is not as many as people think it is, why? What's the point? Stay where you are, especially if you're playing. So I think he might be one of those guys where just came to the realization, said, you know what, I'll stick around. But when you think about, we were talking about the wide receiver position earlier, why shouldn't Zion Taylor come back?
Right.
If I'm Zion Taylor, I'm thinking about coming back because, sir, you haven't signed yet. Tajay Boyd, signed with Ole Miss. I get it. Okay. No, they passing out the bag.
Right.
And they had so many guys hop in the portal. I think was it TJ Daugherty, I believe, the starting linebacker for Ole Miss. He hopped in the portal. So, yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. I'm sure they gave you a bag too. So you go down there and go do your thing. But if you don't got any like hot boy offers right now, man, bring your butt back home. As the mama would say, when the lights are on, or the street lights are on, like, man, bring your butt back in this house. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, Jarvis, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I don't know if fans realize the extent of what happens to some of these guys. You got 3,000 plus players entering the transfer portal during this 2-week stretch. And to my understanding, I've heard of, guys like Josh Pate who cover the sport and get these kind of numbers given to them of, close to a third of them don't find a home, and a large number of them never play college football ever again. Like, these are life-changing decisions by them saying, hey, I want to go see if the grass is really greener. And I have to wonder, Jarvis, too, if there was some extent, you mentioned Zion Taylor, Jamari Bryce is another one where I don't know if there were conversations inside the program of like, hey, maybe you want to take a look and see what else is out there. And, but if I were Brent Key and George Godsey, and you see how your transfer portal time went, where you had guys leaving in mass exodus, whether to Florida, whether to Georgia, whoever, maybe you reevaluate yourself and go, yeah, getting a guy back in the program who is familiar with things, who has some sense of what's going on, a level of consistency for this program right now, I think would be pretty important. And so for Melvin Jordan, yeah, it's having depth on a roster that didn't necessarily have a ton of depth. I think did some upgrading, but certainly, if you're taking a look and seeing, and especially not to call out Melvin Jordan specifically, but just the way that his season went, where you're getting playing time early in the year, you're getting some production, and clearly coaching staff didn't see you as a regular rotation piece as the season went on, because your opportunities became fewer and fewer. Staying somewhere where at least your head coach has an idea of what you can do and can speak up on your behalf, instead of going somewhere new and really having to fight for it. And jobs, we start getting into like facilities and things like that pop up when all this happens. The only thing that I wish these guys wouldn't do, because it's a little too arrogant for my particular old man yelling at cloud taste, is the "I'm back" graphic. like you did something particular, like you did Georgia Tech a favor by coming back to the flats with a "I'm back" photo that I'm sure you had the social team make for you. Like, you're not MJ, man. Just send out a little
coming back
tweet.
like he wearing the 4-5.
I saw the graphic, and at least, hey Jarvis, at least it's not as bad as what Jordan Seaton did to Colorado, where Jordan Seaton had Colorado's media department make him a video that they thought was for him to announce he's coming back, but was actually to announce he's leaving and was going in the portal. So at least, yeah, at least what Jordan did wasn't that bad at all. It's just that when I see these graphics on social media of it, I'm coming back. Okay. I'm glad you saw what was out there, decided that this was better than what you saw.
Man, you know how I feel about these posts, man. We can do a whole nother segment on these scripted posts. I feel like these cats just be copying and pasting from each other and just change a few words on it. I'm just like, dog, come on, man. Like, miss me with all this stuff. Yeah. I don't know, man.
I just want to know who it's for. Like who are we impressing by doing these things? Like, because it feels like it's just wanting
likes and comments.
Yeah,
likes and comments.
That's really it.
Yeah,
it feels like, so we can hear, oh man, we're so excited to have you back. We couldn't do it without you, and whatever else stuff.
All that
pop up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for me, man. It's really not.
It's not for me either. Even though we do a show and sometimes ask for likes and comments, so people.
I was about to say we kind of do that as well.
Oh, hey man, look, I kind of get it. Just a little bit.
It's fine. I will. I'll be the pot calling the kettle black. I just
a little bit.
As a consumer, sometimes I see it and I'm like, really, this is what we're doing?
Yeah.
All right. Enough negativity.
They don't do that to us though, because they love us, right? Yeah. Right.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I would certainly hope so.
How can you
okay. Still more news coming out with this Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets program that we will be getting into in our very next episode, because there is another position coach that appears to be on the way to the flats that we'll get into very shortly. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Georgia Tech. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and anywhere you listen to podcasts for free. Follow the show on social media at Locked On Georgia Tech. Jarvis is at JarvisD90. I'm at ATL Johnson 18. Join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Georgia Tech with no interruptions, members only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedongeorgiatech.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. For Locked On Georgia Tech, y'all have a good one.